and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Ladies tea, we got a lot of tea tonight, and we've got some great ladies to discuss it. Tonight, we're joined by our friend, Turning Point USA's Erin Elmore, as well as political commentator Mehek Cooke. Ladies, kick off to the DNC. What a party in Chicago. I mean, I say that, of course, as a joke. Seems so far like the joy, Mehek, that they claimed to have, all of the positivity of the Republicans convention, not seeing it so much in Chicago. Obviously, I was very proud of our Republican National Convention. I am the RNC co-chair, but I think what I generally felt that entire 4-day span in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, of course, 48 hours after Donald Trump is shot in the head and he shows up there, that what you felt and what everybody told me was, watching it at home, I was glued to the TV. You could feel the unity through the screen. You could feel the positivity. And you know what was interesting to me, Mehek, is that not a single person at the RNC, I mean, some did, but the general nature of people's speeches, it was positive. It was uplifting. It was unifying. It was looking towards the future. It was solutions to the problems we have today. And it was very different watching the very first day last night of the Democrats convention. What I took away was that every single person in there hates Donald Trump with a burning hot passion, and they don't have a single policy on which to describe to the American people how they can make their life any better. And so they didn't do that. They just dumped on Donald Trump, lied about him. I heard Project 2025. We had Joe Biden, bless his heart, as we say in North Carolina, where I'm from. They put him past prime time. Shocked the guy was even awake. They probably had to give him a little extra to keep him up. He brought out the very fine people hoax again. All they did was lie and dump on Donald Trump. Very different convention than our Republican convention about a month ago. Mehek, give me your first impressions of the Democrats' night number one at the DNC.
Well, Laura, I was with you at the RNC and I saw firsthand the unity, and that is the opposite. When you look at the DNC, you have protesters outside that are picketing, rioting, screaming, killer Kamala. Well, she is, because of her open border crisis. And on top of that, cops are being attacked. And you see this mess on the outside. There was the replication of the mess to the inside. The DNC is not united. They're not standing. They are continuing to pretend that there's this massive rah, rah, rah for Kamala Harris. But let's not forget, just last month, the same Democrats were pushing Joe Biden out of office. Kamala was the worst vice president in history. And then Joe Biden gets on stage, and I brace myself and I wait for it. And he continues to look in the rearview mirror and lie. He lied to the American people, saying he had the securest border. There's 12 million illegal immigrants today. He lied, saying American cities were safer today. 66 cities are up in violent crimes. Just look outside the DNC. He continued to peddle fear. He never once talked about joy. He never once talked about prosperity. And then the audacity to call President Trump a loser. Last time I checked, we were winning under President Trump's economy. There was peace and prosperity. We weren't going to break out into World War III. So it was a dumpster fire. And I am so upset because the DNC had an opportunity to coalesce and tell the American people what 4 years of Kamala Harris will look like.
Yeah, well, Erin, I don't think they can do that because we've had 3.5 years of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden in the White House. Look what it got us, right? So I don't expect for the next 3 days, we're here in night number 2 now. I don't expect to hear anything but more platitudes, more vibes, and more lies. That's really what this entire convention is about, lying to the American people. They've got an IUD outside, a blow-up giant IUD outside. They got like vasectomies and abortions in a taco truck style. Get your icy and get your vasectomy/abortion. I don't know. Is this something the American people want to buy? Can they get away with just evoking emotion in people instead of actually talking about things that they could do to make their lives better?
And that's a very valid question. It's that they think that the American people and the people who are voting on November 5th are stupid. They think we will say it, they will buy it, and we will continue to sell it. And it's absolutely ridiculous because the American people are waking up. And I think saying when you go to the gas station under President Donald J. Trump, when he left office, gas was $1.87 and mortgage rates were 2%. And you go on TV, if you're past your prime Joe Biden, and say all of these things, and the American people are scratching their head. They say, my grocery prices are 3 times as much. My gas is twice as much. My safety, I don't feel safe in my community anymore. You hear stories of people being mugged. They can't take the subway. They don't walk alone anymore. And what they are selling to us, people aren't buying. And I think the closer we get to November, it's going to become more and more clear. I was reading a great article this morning with some great quotes. So 57% of voters say media bias goes in Kamala Harris's favor, 57%. And I think that's a pretty high number. So waking up there. 2 in 3 voters say Tim Walz's stolen valor story is a very serious issue. And I also like this one. 80% of swing state voters support more oil and gas drilling in the U.S. to lower energy costs. That's nothing that they can talk about at the DNC in Chicago now, is it? Because they know that when you rattle off statistics and facts, they are not on their side. And when you look at the crime statistics, I believe that 23 of the 25 most dangerous cities are run by Republicans. And now what they're saying in those liberal cities, crime is going down. No, what they're doing is 1, not prosecuting crime, and 2, no longer reporting it to the FBI Bureau of Crime Statistics. So they're saying crime is down in LA and New York and Philadelphia. No, you're just not reporting it. And you're just not arresting people for that. And these people that are in these liberal cities and still voting Democrat, it's basically a lack of logic. And they maybe are the ones outside getting their beer, getting their taco, and then getting their IUD.
23 of the 25 cities are run by Democrats. You said Republicans, but I know you meant Democrats.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
23
of the 25 most dangerous cities are run by Democrats.
Well, it's true. And you just look around, just take a gander around. The whole evening last night, I'll be really honest, I could not wait up for Joe Biden's speech. First of all, it was challenging for me to watch any of that. It was, there was a lot of negativity. And I think back to the speech that I had at the convention, and I was very aware of the moment and the fact that we had an opportunity to bring people together instead of tear people apart and divide people. And I purposely didn't go out of my way to knock Joe and Kamala, to really go after the Democrats anyway. It's obvious. Look around. The Democrats are in charge right now. Everything sucks. Everything is a disaster. I didn't need to go out of my way to do that. I wanted to talk more positively, but all I heard last night was negativity. And then it's interesting to me that they had Joe Biden on the first night of their convention. And Joe Biden came in, he flew in that day. They made him wait quite a long time. I think they were running like 90 minutes behind schedule or something to that effect at the convention, let alone, you're going to put these people in charge of the country again. They can't even get a convention together to run properly on time. They made him wait until past prime time, until people were shutting off their TVs. I couldn't wait up anymore. I was exhausted. I wake up early. We got a lot of things going on. We got an election to win here. And then Joe Biden left, Mehek. He flew out to California, and it's almost as though they're like, all right, now that's off our plate. Now we can move on. No one wants to associate themselves with Joe Biden. No one wants to remind people that they lied to the American people for years about Joe Biden, his capabilities, his ability to be our president right now, let alone run for president again for 4 more years. All of the people who you were going to see on the stage, by and large at this convention, lied to you about Joe Biden and his ability to be president and run for president. Again, they want distance from Joe Biden. They don't want to remind people of that. And I guess they think people are dumb enough to say, oh, if we don't see Joe Biden there, this is still the president of the United States. I'll remind people right now, he currently is. They got him out of there as quickly as they possibly could. And I guess they're thinking if Joe's not seen there, then people aren't going to associate the disastrous situation right now with Kamala and the rest of the Democrats? Is that the play? Is that the plan, Mehek? What do you think?
Well, Laura, that may be the plan, but they're not executing it very well. If you look at the Democrat National Committee convention platform, they mentioned Joe Biden
Yeah.
119 times. And let's just sit back. The one thing that the Democrats got right, they totally got this right when they said Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are one and the same. Joe Biden stood on stage and told everybody, we. He said the word we hundreds of times. I stayed up to watch because I was hoping for hope and change and joy. And what I got was an angry 80 plus year old man that was shouting at the American people. This has never worked. You're not going to yell your way into more love. You're not going to convince us when we are hurting and we're sitting at our kitchen tables today and trying to pay bills. Erin said this, grocery prices are up 20%, gas is up 30%, utilities, mortgage rates. I mean, you name it. So the American people know when we elected Joe Biden, we also elected Kamala Harris. They're the same policies. They haven't shifted. If anything, I think it's disgusting that Kamala Harris did an economic policy rollout and blamed grocery stores and called it price gouging. Do you know price gouging is when you have a catastrophe and you're paying $20 for a bottle of water? Price gouging isn't the 1.4% grocery stores are making today to continue to sustain food on our shelves. It is a disgusting play. And I think every American should go and look at Nixon's policies. When Nixon tried to push price gouging, guess what? Farmers, I was just reading this, farmers were drowning their chickens, cattles weren't making it. I mean, this is what the American people will do. They're going to push back and they're going to revolt. So for Joe Biden to sit there and for hours to get on that quote prime time, people were snoozing at this point. He didn't win any votes and Kamala Harris is going to try and distance herself, but this is her record, Laura.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that there was a meme yesterday that said, when Kamala Harris says grocery stores are price gouging when it's 2.3% or 3%, and they want to tax us 30%, it's kind of rich, isn't it? It's funny because they're accusing everyone.
If we can, since we are bringing up Kamala and last Friday's economic speech in Raleigh, North Carolina, I just want to go back to that very quickly. So I watched it because I was like, let's see what the big rollout is here. Let me see what Kamala Harris has to offer. This is, aside from ripping off Donald Trump's no tax on tips, this is the first thing we've heard from Kamala Harris in terms of policy and what she plans to do as president of the United States. So I said, let me check this out. And then as she's describing the price fixing, Mehek, as you just point out, she says that we need to make sure we take care of anyone who's price, not gouging, price gauging. And I was like, let me hear that again. I rewound it like several times. Like she said, gauging. What is this price gauging? Do you know what? So there's either two things going on here as far as I'm concerned. Either Kamala Harris is so like outside of anything that any of us could ever expect a politician to know. She has no idea what she's talking about, and she will literally read everything that is put on a teleprompter for her, and somebody wrote gauging instead of gouging, and she doesn't know enough about anything going on to know the difference, or she misspoke and she really believes in this communist policy, this Marxist policy that look around the world, whenever you've had price fixing, first of all, you've seen all of the even the liberal economists go on like CNN and say, this is crazy. Who's going to be the one to determine price gouging? And how do you dictate who's doing it and who's not doing it? You're going to go into like a Kroger and say, oh, I think the price of eggs should be X. Right. You're right, Mehek. It leads to disasters, but look around, look at Venezuela, look at the communist USSR, look around the world at different societies that have tried to implement price fixing. It never works. It is a recipe for disaster. What you want is to create competition, and naturally it will regulate prices. The whole thing is crazy. When she said price gauging, I was just like, okay, so I guess what's going on here is this is a person who doesn't even know. They're just like, plug it into the teleprompter and let her say it. And she must have some very radical people or people who are too dumb to know the difference working on her team, or she's fully bought into this. And either way, it is a frightening reality in which we're living right now. And you couldn't, Erin, have two more different people running for president of the United States. You have Donald Trump on one hand, who we saw so much success under, who is a businessman, who understands the economy, who understands why you want to foster competition, and naturally it regulates prices, and naturally it is a positive thing for the entire country. And then on the other side, you have straight out of the communist playbook, Kamala Harris's idea that we heard on Friday. That alone should be enough for people to take a look at things and say, oh, wow, I really need to start doing my research. Are they just banking, Erin, though, on people being too dumb to know how any of this would actually play out and what it would mean for this country? I assume that must be the plan.
I assume it must be as well. And I know they have the mainstream media to run cover for them. So this price gauging incident would have been all over the front page, all over CNN and MSNBC if it were said by Donald Trump. But because it is Kamala, they run cover. They say that's what she meant to say, or don't even say anything at all. So when you have the perfect storm of an administration that basically shoveled in Kamala without the proper democratic process, you have a mainstream media that's completely willing to run cover, and you have Google that doesn't want to change our search results in favor of President Trump. They actually changed them in favor of Kamala. There were actually old headlines that were revised and just up there. You know, when we try to say she was the border czar, they say that's not true, and her campaign went and changed headlines. So when people see things, they see the headlines that aren't real. So we don't have sports, we don't have Hollywood, we don't have Google, we don't have search engines, we don't have music any longer, we don't have the mainstream media. What do we have other than people that are going to be willing to dig deep and access information? And if people don't have the time, energy, or effort to do so, they're going to just have to sit there and sort of take it at face value. But let's just hope and pray that those people that are going to the gas station, and those people are going to the grocery store, and those people are sons who are getting sent off to war are realizing Donald J. Trump didn't cause any of this.
I really hope people remember that. And I think that's the name of the game. That's what we have to do from the RNC and the Trump campaign. I would say over the next, whatever it is now, 77 days, 76 days. But we have early voting. We have mail-in voting. We have to do this in a very rapid fashion. Here's the reason, though, Mehek. I kind of feel like despite their best efforts to create all of this excitement and momentum around Kamala Harris, and she's one of the great political figures of our time, I don't know that it's working on people. One of the reasons I don't feel like it's working is because there are a lot of, there's some very prominent Democrats up for re-election right now in this election cycle who've chosen to skip going to the DNC. You have John Tester, who's got a very close race in Montana. You have Sherrod Brown in Ohio, same thing. Jackie Rosen in Nevada, all skipping the convention. John Fetterman, he's not up for re-election right now, but nonetheless, it gives me the idea that these people know, Mehek, at least these Democrats are willing to admit, this is a pretty tough sell to America. Kamala Harris, it's a pretty tough sell to have the policies she's thus far laid out, the lack of communication and visibility for the American public. She hasn't sat for an interview. Now it's 31 days. We're a solid month into Kamala's coronation. As Erin just pointed out, and we all continue to point out, not a single person voted for Kamala Harris. She was plugged right into that spot. Do you feel like that they really are as confident, Mehek, on the Democrat side as they're letting on? I tend to think that they know that it's all fake momentum. They know that the polls are skewed, and they know that it's going to be hard to sell a woman who has basically hidden and done nothing except for allow the border to stay wide open for 3.5 years to the American people. Maybe that's why some of these Democrats are like, better not go to the DNC. Don't know that would work out well for me. If you suffer from chronic pain, listen up. I think you guys know by now that I am a total fitness fanatic and always looking for ways to improve my health. That's when I discovered a turmeric supplement called Golden Revive Plus. After taking it for just a few weeks, I started to feel relief in places, quite frankly, I didn't even know I had pain. This stuff is incredible for reducing pain in your knees, back, hips, elbows, hands, or feet, and I wanted to share it with as many people as possible. That's why I'm recommending it on my podcast with a special discount just for the Right View listeners until August 31st. You can get 30% off your first order of Golden Revive Plus. Just head over to goldenrevive.com and use promo code Trump at checkout. Over 300,000 Americans just like you are already using Golden Revive Plus to get and stay pain-free. Again, head over to goldenrevive.com and use promo code Trump at checkout for 30% off your first order. You've asked and MyPillow listened. They're finally bringing you the most requested offer ever. Right now, you can get the queen size premium MyPillow for only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill, and it adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get their 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets for only $25, the brand new mattress topper for as low as $69.98, and their famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25, and so much more. Go to mypillow.com or call 800-624-3945 and use promo code Trump to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today, and use promo code Trump.
Laura, I think Democrats are running with fear. They're running scared. They know that their policies have decimated every single American, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or an independent. So I can talk about Sherrod Brown in Ohio. He has continued to ride the Trump train, to ride that progress, that prosperity, that success. He has commercials in Ohio where he has President Trump in them. Don't let people like Sherrod Brown fool you. These Democrats, John Fetterman's another great example. What they're truly telling the American people is that the Democrat base has left them. They have become so radical, which was rare at one point. Now it is what the base is. They kicked out a great man like Josh Shapiro, who could have actually helped Kamala Harris deliver many of those swing states, and they hung on to Walz. Walz, the man who opened up crime in his cities while Kamala came in and bailed them out during the George Floyd riots. So what this base is truly doing is pulling away. And then you see the Hamas cheerleaders out there. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are one of them. Biden said, that Hamas protester has a point. So Americans are bracing themselves. We can't have 4 more years of death and destruction. And the Democrat Party is truly imploding. And let me share a couple of facts with you. Real Clear Politics actually has President Trump up by 3 points. Just 4 years ago, when President Biden on this day was running, he was up 8 points. When you look at Clinton running, Hillary Clinton, she was up by 6. When you have this love fest with Kamala Harris and the media, and she's barely able to hold on, this tells you everything you need to know. The Republican Party needs to move full steam ahead, and all we need to talk about is policy. That is all we care about today, the green in our pockets. Our children, are they going to be safe? Are we going to close down that border? The more we stick to policy and solutions and prosperity, the better we're going to be, and we'll be able to deliver not only the White House, but every single office down ticket.
Amen. From your lips, Mehek. I hope so. Let me go back, Erin, very quickly to Josh Shapiro.
Yes.
I'd love to get, as a Jewish woman yourself, I'd love to get your take on this. Is the reason you believe Kamala Harris skipped over Josh Shapiro, although they were really hot on him, made him come out and denounce his pro-Israel views and all of it, only to say like, never mind, is the reason you feel like she could not have chosen him because it would have been a disaster for them with the far left radicals, these pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist people in the base of the Democrat Party?
I mean, you're 100% accurate. And I'm also originally from Pennsylvania, so I've had exposure to Josh Shapiro for a very long time. So although he is a very flawed liberal politician, I could get into all of that. In terms of the optics for the mainstream viewer of political news, he looked like a bright, shining star, young guy, handsome guy, well-spoken, pretty clean record publicly. And the fact that he's Jewish, they say this would be great for them. It would actually be great because I know so many liberal Jews because of what happened on college campuses and the Democrat Party sort of running cover for these Hamas psychopaths, if you will, that they would have said, okay, we did the right thing, Democrats. We got Josh Shapiro in here. The Democrat Party does care about Jews. But in the 11th hour, they said, no, we don't, because they care more about Dearborn, Michigan, and the Hamas caucus than they do about the actual people in this country. And Jews, yes, we are a big percentage of the population here in the United States, but not really that big when you look at what we could have been after the Holocaust. But I will say this, that the Jews maybe are the most important segment of our population to look at for November, because Jews have generally voted Democrat for a very, very long time. And so many people are waking up saying, what I saw, my daughter is Jewish and went to Harvard. My son is Jewish and went to Columbia and felt unsafe after paying $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year, and seeing that our president didn't give Israel the supplies that they need to fight in Gaza. So I think that this is a big segment of the population that we need to really keep an eye on, because the Democrats are, when they say believe them when they tell you who they are, they have told us. And I think that these Jews are going to wake up and say, it's time for DJ too, who was great for Israel, by the way.
I mean, one of the best, certainly the best in my lifetime for Israel. There's no doubt. Donald J. Trump never had a closer ally in the United States to Israel than when Donald Trump was in office. And the polling, by the way, speaking of polling, the polling out of the state of New York alone, which has a huge, a larger Jewish population, arguably, than a lot of states in America, the polling recently, Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, with the Jewish population in New York alone, Donald Trump is up on Kamala Harris right now. I've never heard of such a thing. This is a group of people, Erin, to your point, who always, in mass votes Democrat. The fact that you've seen movement and a shift of that variety already is huge. And I always know with the polling with Donald Trump, like you go back to 2016, I knew the exit polls for Donald Trump on election day would be wrong, because I knew there were so many people who would not be honest with the pollster. My father-in-law calls it the FU vote, which is like when they came out of the polling locations and somebody said, would you like to tell us who you voted for? And they say, either Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. A lot of people said FU. You know what that means? And that essentially was a vote for Donald Trump, but they couldn't count it because these people were like, I just want to be left alone. I don't want you to know who I'm voting for. I don't want to get the blowback. But it shocked me when Kamala Harris did not choose Josh Shapiro. I was sure that was who she was going to choose. You got to win the state of Pennsylvania. You have to win Pennsylvania. I was kind of flabbergasted by that. But look, they're playing some kind of crazy game on the other side. I don't know what they're doing over there. They have, though, become so radical. Mehek, you just talked about this. A lot of people want to distance themselves from this party, the Democrat Party. They say this is not the party of JFK. This isn't even the party of Bill Clinton. No. Bill Clinton would be a Republican right now with the values he ran on and was in office with. It's kind of wild. And one of the interesting things from last week, it feels like it got a little bit buried already. And actually, I think it may have come out yesterday morning or Sunday night, is that Republicans launched this investigation. And the House Republicans, of course, have been looking into Joe Biden and what's been going on with his family, with their finances, with foreign money coming in. And they launched this investigation last September after evidence surfaced that Joe Biden repeatedly interacted with his relatives' foreign business partners during his vice presidency, and following allegations from two IRS investigators of a far-reaching Justice Department cover-up. Biden engaged in abuse of power and obstruction of justice or obstruction of Congress by corruptly abetting and concealing $27 million in an influence peddling racket, which warrant proceedings that could result in his removal from office. There's a 291-page report by 3 House committees, Mehek, who have gone through now this $27 million that the Bidens received from foreign entities. some of these are from dealings with Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Russia, and China. And people are saying this is an impeachable offense. They impeached Donald Trump, Mehek, for a phone call to Ukraine to look into this exact sort of thing. Wonder why they didn't want anyone to get information about it. And now we finally had some House Republicans go through this investigation. It's nearly been a year, and you have some information coming out that looks pretty bad for Joe Biden. I'm wondering, is all of this, is this going to be the last straw for Joe Biden? Would they try to go along with this on the Democrat side to just get him out before November and plug Kamala Harris in just so they could say she's in? What do you make of all of this, Mehek?
Well, Laura, I find it very surprising that mainstream media hasn't talked about it.
Nothing. Yeah.
News. And this is where you have to say the biggest threat to democracy is Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the Democrat Party. They have continued to weaponize the law against Republicans, against President Trump, against his banks, against his businesses, against his family, against him just trying to run to be the president of the United States. They even tried to kick him off ballots. And now, this wasn't just hearsay. This was a massive investigation by the House committee where, let me tell you, numbers don't lie. We have bank records, massive transactions where you are seeing countries like Uzbekistan, China, Ukraine peddling money to Hunter Biden, and that money is then transferred to the big guy. You have no business being the son of a president and pushing these types of deals and these foreign business dealings. He doesn't even have a degree in some of the work that he was doing, like for Burisma. He was supposed to be an energy executive. So what you're seeing is bank records where the family scored over $27 million. And we're sitting back today and wondering, how did this money transfer? Why was it transferred? But I'll tell you something. It's no surprise that Biden has abused his power and helped his family and helped his friends. Washington is going to continue to miss impeachment scandals because this is driven by Democrats. They're not going to follow the rule of law, because if they did, the biggest impeachment scandal next to Joe Biden was the open border. Mayorkas needs to get out. The fact that we've had 11 million illegal immigrants, the fact that we have 99 known terrorists that are walking free in the United States, the fact that the Party for Women, the Democrats, Kamala Harris, has yet to call out the rape and murder of so many women. That is the greatest scandal. That is the biggest impeachment. And I think what Republicans need to do now is realize we may not see law and order through this Congress and this impeachment, but we need to continue to get the message out there about this open border, about the corruption, and how it will stop on day one when President Trump is reelected.
Erin, I for a long time said, look, there's a lot you could argue about Hunter Biden, there's no doubt. But my main concern as a citizen of this country is that I would like to know that when the president of the United States is making decisions in the Oval Office on behalf of all 331 million of us in America, those decisions are being made based on what is best for the country and not best for the bank accounts of his family. And now we have this information that has come out, and it's sort of what we've all said for a long time. There's something that doesn't feel right. Why is it Hunter Biden got to ride over to China on Air Force Two, take all these meetings with Joe Biden, and then he comes back and he gets these great business deals? They say of this, the House Judiciary says our impeachment inquiry shows conclusively that Joe Biden abused his public office for the private financial benefit of the Biden family and Biden business associates. The facts speak for themselves, and Democrats can no longer stretch the truth to cover for President Biden. Turns out that the thing that we were all concerned about likely was happening. How frightening is that to realize now? $27 million, that's a lot of money over the course of a couple of years that the Biden family inherited from all these foreign entities. And we know that there's still communications going on today. Right now, Joe Biden is still president. Right now, Hunter Biden still has ties in some variety to a lot of these. His brother, Jim,
Yeah.
All of it. Imagine, Aaron, Donald Trump had a dollar from a foreign entity.
Right.
Imagine that. In fact, we paid all that money back to the U.S. Treasury whenever foreign dignitaries would come stay at Trump properties because we didn't want even the faintest hint of any issue or any impropriety. What did we get for that? Impeachments, indictments. Nobody gave us any credit for any of that. And on the other side of the things, $27 million for the Biden family. Wow.
You know why those dignitaries came and stayed at Trump properties, as someone who stayed at those Trump properties, specifically in DC that you've now sold? Because they're the nicest.
Yeah.
They're the best run. That's sort of a laugh in all of this. But, as an attorney, will also say that everything in that very long letter that you've just been describing so articulately, this is no longer circumstantial evidence. This is direct evidence of a crime. We're not talking about there's no there. How many times do we hear the mainstream media say, we don't have the proof? The proof is right here. But I also think that the American people, we hear Jim Jordan and other people, Massey up there, writing these stern letters and giving these very difficult and harsh speeches. But then what happens, right? What happens? It just seems that in Washington, on both sides, unfortunately, that there are these hearings and there are these letters and there are these reports. But then what happens? It's on to the next news cycle. And I really hope with this one, someone in Washington on our side has the strength and the moral courage to sink their teeth in and really dig into this and get it further amplified in the media and further down the legal and political process, because this is nothing that we should be sweeping under the rug. You spoke of how what we should be doing is the best for the American people, Joe, not to line your family's pockets. And we don't even know what the influences what are they getting out of this? What is China now going to do to us? We know with the Penn Biden Center, there was a big exchange of money. And are they all in our country now? Do they want to be terrorists? Are they spying on us, or worse? We have no answers to any of these questions. That's why we need people in Washington to dig in, and we need to take it further with Joe Biden, because he's already halfway out the door and out to lunch, and Hunter's still sticking around.
It would just be nice to set a precedent in Washington, D.C. that says, hey, we don't do this stuff in the United States. We don't do these things whenever you're an elected official, let alone the president of the United States. Apparently, a lot of the times whenever there would be conversations, what would ultimately happen a lot of times, it sounds like, based on this letter, is that Hunter Biden would have these business associates he would be out to dinner with. Now, sometimes Joe would show up. We know we have photo evidence of that he would go to some of them. But when he couldn't show up, Hunter would go ahead and just call the big guy on his phone and put him on speaker and let the people who were there at the table with him, these business associates from China, from Ukraine, from Kazakhstan, from Russia, they let him talk. And then, lo and behold, the next day, $3.5 million from Moscow money transfer into Hunter Biden's business account. It's interesting how that all worked, but I hope someone somewhere on the Democrat side as well. I agree. I want the Republicans to continue to investigate this, but it's a bipartisan thing. Everyone should want to know that we have elected officials doing the right things for the country and not making promises to foreign countries and dignitaries about things that we have no idea about. It is terrifying that those things could happen. So I hope some of these people remember that they're elected and they're in these positions because they have an opportunity to do the right thing. And I would love to see the right thing happen. Before we go, one of my favorite things to see, Mehek, is whenever some of these Trump haters get a dose of reality and sort of a wake-up call and a shock. Don Lemon is no fan of Donald Trump's, probably not a fan of mine. That's okay. He went to Atlantic City recently.
Oh.
People have probably seen this video. If you haven't, give it a look because it's a real gas. You'll really love it.
Real gas.
He goes to Atlantic City, New Jersey, a blue state, been voting blue a long time. Atlantic City, a very blue area, and he's on the boardwalk there. And he assumes he's going to go up and talk to people and that he's going to say Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. And they're all going to say Kamala Harris. And most of them tell him Donald Trump. And even the one guy who goes, I vote Democrat, but I think Trump's got it. I think it's in the bag for Trump. He was utterly shocked, Mehek. I feel like this is good for some of these people who live in their little bubble to get out and talk to the real people of this country and hear what they really think about things, and that although they are doing everything they can to just throw more dirt on Donald Trump and to make him look less desirable in the eyes of the American voter, people were like, I don't know. I feel like I had more money in my pocket when Donald Trump was in office. Even Don Lemon's like, no, you didn't. You sure? What? You love to see it, Mehek. It warms my heart to see this sort of thing.
Look, mad props to Don Lemon to get out of his bubble in New York City, because I bet you he goes from New York City, where he lives, fine living, to his studio where he talks trash, and then back to his apartment. Mad props for him to actually get out of his bubble and talk to real American voters. Yeah. And then he put it on social media. Yeah. I watched it over and over again. So I will give him respect where it's due, because most people would have said, I am not putting this on TV. Most people would have said, I'm not going to give these individuals a platform. And he did what most mainstream media won't do, which is tell the truth. And look, the bottom line is that when you actually get out of your bubbles, whether it's Republican circles or Democrat circles, and go and talk to people. I talk to Democrats all the time. Look,
I don't.
The Indian community, the Asian community, many of them have voted Democrat, but now they're starting to see a change. We're worried about safety, security, our children, our future, our 401ks, the stock market. All of that was better under President Trump. And when crime rates are continuing to shoot up, Don Lemon talked to people like you and me and so many voters that are saying enough is enough. So I love the fact that Americans got to hear from real Americans rather than elites. It was brilliant.
That's kind of what we had at our convention, Erin. We wanted real Americans to talk about their life experiences. And a lot of people who said, I voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. But it's true. Those are real Americans. I wonder, will we see many of these real Americans at the DNC? How many of these people are they going to get up on stage? I'm going to guess not a lot of them, because I bet they're pretty hard pressed to find people who would say, my life is a heck of a lot better now that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris got a hold of it.
No, they're only going to focus on the fact that they say that Republicans want to steal your women's rights, when we know that Roe versus Wade simply said, we don't want 9 men in robes making the decisions. It goes back to the state. So if you live in a state that's super liberal, you vote for your elected officials, you can do whatever you want. And I love when the Democrats, by the way, talk about women's rights. Women have the right to ride the subway without being stabbed. Women have the right to take a run without being murdered. Women have a right to feel safe on the streets of their cities. And under Democrats, they don't feel it. Women have a right for their husbands not to be sent off for endless wars and things of that nature. But if we can go back to Don Lemon for a second, he was the one that said Florida and DeSantis and COVID policy. Anyone that goes to Florida has a death wish, and DeSantis is, it's a dereliction of duty. 2 weeks later, my friend Andrea, her, Lara, shout out to Drea, who's actually working our local election today like a good patriot.
Yes.
She saw Don Lemon at a hotel in Palm Beach 2 days after making that speech on TV. Well, where was Don Lemon? In the free state of Florida. So I don't think Don going to Atlantic City is necessarily stepping out of his bubble. It was his comfort zone, but I agree with Mehek. He did put it on air, so we'll give him that credit.
I know. I saw one of the comments under the post. It said it needs to be pointed out that he had editing on his side, and this is as good as it gets. I assume that was really like for him to find enough people to at least say, well, yeah, I vote Democrat, but it looks like Trump's got it. Give him props, credit where credit is due. Sure. I would love to see more of this, because it would be nice to have some transparency and real conversation out there. Erin Elmore and Mehek Cooke, thank you both for joining us as always. You ladies are amazing. To everybody at home, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. And we'll see you back here for more of The Right View.
And I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide. and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.